There's a man on my storage facility's security cameras who's been dead for 6 years. I've watched the footage 11 times now, and I still don't have an explanation that lets me sleep at night. My name's Ryan. I work the night shift at Ironclad Self-Storage, a place out on the edge of town that most people only think about twice a year. Once when they rent a unit to dump their dead parents' furniture, and once when they finally get around to cleaning it out. 640 units, 12 rows. One guy on shift from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., watching 16 camera feeds from a cramped office that smells like burnt coffee and floor wax. It's the kind of job you take when you need money and don't need to think. For the first 4 months, nothing happened. Nothing ever happens. That's the whole appeal. Then came the night of October 9th. It was a slow shift, same as always. I was scrolling through my phone with like one eye on the monitors when something in the corner of camera 6 caught my attention. A flicker of movement in row F, way at the back of the lot, where the units are older, cheaper, and mostly forgotten. I pulled up the feed. A man was standing in front of Unit 214. That wasn't unusual by itself. People show up at odd hours sometimes. Insomniacs digging through Christmas decorations. Guys avoiding their wives. What made me stop scrolling was how he was standing. Completely still. Not fumbling with keys, not checking his phone, not doing anything a person does while waiting. Just standing there, facing the roll-up door, arms at his sides like a mannequin someone had propped up in front of the unit. I watched for almost a full minute. He didn't move at all. I grabbed the radio and called it in to dispatch, more out of protocol than actual worry. Got someone loitering at row F, Unit 214. Not doing anything, just standing there. Gonna go take a look. Dispatch told me to be careful and to call again if anything felt off. I grabbed my flashlight and walked out into the lot. The night was cold, the kind of late autumn cold that gets into your knuckles. The lot lights buzzed overhead, throwing long yellow cones onto the gravel between the rows. Row F was at the far end, past the newer, better lit units, into the section where half the bulbs had burned out and nobody had bothered replacing them. When I got there, no one was around. I stood in front of Unit 214, flashlight sweeping the area, and found nothing. No footprints in the gravel dust that I could make out. No car in the lot that shouldn't have been there. I checked the padlock on the unit. Intact, undisturbed, coated in a thin layer of rust that told me nobody had touched it in a long time. I chalked it up to a camera glitch or somebody who'd bolted the second I stepped outside, and went back to the office feeling stupid for being spooked by nothing. Except the footage was still there. I pulled it up again once I was back inside. The timestamp showed he'd been standing there for 4 minutes and 31 seconds before I walked out. And in every single frame, he hadn't moved so much as an inch. I should have let it go right there. But something about it nagged at me enough that the next morning before I left, I pulled the tenant records for Unit 214. The name on the file was Marcus Webb. Rented in 2018. No payments on record since early 2020. According to the note the previous manager had left in the system, the unit had gone into default and should have been auctioned off years ago. Except there was a hold flag on the account. The kind that gets placed when there's an ongoing legal or police matter tied to a unit. No further explanation. Just the flag and a case number with no details attached. I looked up the case number on the county court website that afternoon, more curious than I probably should have let myself be. It led me to a 4-year-old news article. Marcus Webb, 34, had died in a car accident on a rural highway outside town, driving home late at night from, according to the article, a self-storage facility where he had recently rented a unit. His car had gone off the road and into a ravine. He wasn't found for 3 days. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Driving home from a self-storage facility. This self-storage facility, his unit. That night, I told myself I was letting a coincidence and bad lighting build itself into something stupid. Cameras glitch, people trespass. Dead men don't stand in parking lots. I almost believed myself until camera 6 lit up again at 2:14 a.m. Same spot, same stillness. This time I didn't call dispatch first. I zoomed in as far as the feed would allow, my hands cold on the mouse, and studied his face for the first time. It matched the photo from the news article. Same jaw, same close-cropped hair, same slightly crooked set to his shoulders. I sat there with my heart slamming against my ribs, telling myself it was someone who just happened to look like him. A relative, maybe, until he turned his head very slowly and looked directly into the camera. I've reviewed that clip more times than I want to admit. In the article's photo, Marcus Webb had a clean, healthy face, a guy in his 30s, a little tired looking, nothing more. The face on my camera feed wasn't like that. The skin had a grayish, sunken quality that made no sense under the sodium lot lights, and his eyes, even through the grainy resolution, looked like they were reflecting more light than they should have. The way an animal's eyes catch a flashlight beam in the dark. He held that stare into the lens for 11 seconds. Then the feed glitched, a burst of static I'd never seen the system produce before or since. And when the picture cleared, he was gone. I didn't go outside that time. I sat in the office with the door locked and the lights on until my shift ended at 6. And I didn't tell dispatch anything beyond false alarm, nothing there. I told myself I wouldn't go back to that job. But rent doesn't pay itself. And 3 nights later, I was back at the desk, trying to convince myself it had been exhaustion, bad camera resolution, my brain doing what brains do at 2 a.m. in an empty building. He came back on the 4th night, and the 5th. Always the same spot, always between 2 and 3 a.m, always facing that rusted padlock, like he was waiting for someone to finally open the door for him. On the 6th night, I made a decision I probably shouldn't have. I called my cousin Alex, who used to do property management and still had connections at the county auction house. I asked him off the record if there was any way to get eyes inside Unit 214 without going through the full legal process. I told him it was about a job thing. I didn't tell him why. It took him 2 days, but he got me in touch with a locksmith who did off-book work for storage facilities dealing with abandoned units, cash, no questions, no paperwork. I met him there on my night off, telling myself I was doing this for closure. Though closure wasn't really what I wanted. I wanted to understand. The lock came off, easier than I expected. The metal crumbling with rust. The locksmith didn't ask to come inside, and honestly, I didn't want him to. He took his money and left, and I stood there in front of the open door with my flashlight, alone at 11 at night, in the one row of the lot where the bulbs didn't work. The unit was mostly empty, a stack of moving boxes gone soft with humidity. An old recliner with the stuffing torn out, like something had clawed through the fabric from the inside. And against the back wall, a small folding table with a single object on it, a cassette answering machine, the kind nobody's used in 20 years, its red light blinking steadily in the dark, like it was still plugged into power that didn't exist in an unpowered storage unit. I stood there staring at that blinking light for longer than I want to admit, every instinct telling me to walk away and never come back. But I've never been good at leaving things alone once I've started pulling the thread. I pressed play. The tape crackled for a few seconds before a voice came through. His voice, I was almost certain, though I'd only ever heard it in my head from that one grainy article photo and a face on a camera screen. It was raspy, uneven, like a recording made through water. If you're hearing this, you opened it. You shouldn't have opened it. I told them not to auction it. I told them to leave it, but nobody ever listens until it's already too late. It gets out when the door opens. It's been waiting in here since before I even rented the unit. I just didn't know until it was already too late for me. Whatever you do, don't turn around. The tape clicked off. I didn't turn around right away. I want that on record at least. That I fought the impulse for a few seconds, standing there with my back to the open unit door, flashlight shaking in my hand, every hair on my arms standing straight up. But you can only fight an instruction like that for so long before curiosity or fear, I still don't know which, wins out. I turned around. The doorway behind me, the one leading back out into the row, was empty. No shape, no figure, nothing standing there waiting. Just gravel, darkness, and the dead bulbs stretching down. The row like a tunnel with no light at the end of it. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding, and that's when I heard it. A slow, deliberate scrape of metal against concrete, coming from directly behind me. Inside the unit, behind the recliner, in the part of the space my flashlight hadn't reached yet. I ran. I didn't check what made the sound. I didn't grab the answering machine or the boxes or anything else that might have explained what I just walked into. I ran the length of row F, past the dead lights, back to my car, and I didn't look at the security feed again that night or any night after. I quit 2 days later. I didn't give notice. Ironclad self-storage is still open. I checked online a few weeks ago, half hoping to see it had closed down, half needing to know it hadn't. It's still operating. Same hours, same rows, same units, including, according to the site's availability listing, one newly vacant unit in row F. Unit 214 is available for rent again. I don't know who cleared it out. I don't know what happened to the answering machine or the recliner or whatever made that sound in the dark behind me. What I do know is that sometimes, late at night, when I'm home alone and it's quiet enough, I hear that same slow scrape of metal on concrete. Even though I live 3 towns away now, in an apartment with no storage unit, no camera feeds, and no reason at all to still be hearing it,